Well, it's time for an update on our Decathlon build. So, as you can see, it's progressing well. We've got our little thing now on there. Got the battery tray installed in there with a screw in place. I've decided that instead of putting a hole through the front panel here, what I'm going to do is just have the windscreen to where it's screwed on, and I can take it off should I need to access that screw to be able to move that tray in or out. We've epoxied on the reinforcing rails on the saddle here, epoxied in where the wing is going to attach in the back, epoxied on the plate there. As you can see, all of the holes are in the tail section now. I haven't done it yet, but where the servo rails go through, they're supposed to go through here. I'm going to move them up, trying to get as much weight forward as I can. So rather than having them back here, I'm going to move them up there. I do have a bit of a cross member in there to dodge, and I may put them a little bit lower to make sure I got plenty of room to get the battery in there. And I will be doing that next before I build the back part of the fuselage on here. I'm expecting that the fuselage tubes will just go through this open area here, but I figure I might as well keep it as open as possible. They'll be coming out through the side back here, so might as well keep everything nice and accessible, and I can get all of that installed. So that's where the fuselage is at. Okay, now with the wing, we've got our center panels in place on both sides. They come up all the way up to the plywood dihedral brace there. We are going to have servos mounted in the wings for the ailerons. So we've made panels. I added this little partial rib across here to support one side of it. Then I've got a little 2mm plywood that is there with a couple of bits of plywood offset with some balsa, so that the servo with a high-tech, was it 220 BB? 225 BB, HS225 BB servos are going to go in there, and they'll just barely be maybe a 1mm above that when that finishes off. We've got the end plates on there. You epoxy them on and then you sand them to shape. So that is all in place. We've also got all of our flying surfaces, movable sort of things put together. We had to build the elevator from scratch. So we did that, got it all shaped nicely, the end plates on there. Got it sanded down to keep it nice and light and streamlined. We've modified the ailerons to where we've used this triangle section on the front of it, so that allows them full movement. And then we've got the holes in place, and we've trialed fit for the pin hinges on all of the surfaces. So as you see on the rudder here, they're all set to go. I've managed to delay this update long enough to have a whole bunch more stuff to be able to tell you about. Getting ready for the servo placement, and again, the beauty of having full-size plans is you can work out what to do and then apply it. So they planned on the servos being up there. I want them farther forward. But we also need access to our battery where it's going in here and sticking out into the nose. So I made some marks on here, just very small marks, to indicate where the bottom of that battery tray would be. So I know I need to miss that, and that's both for putting the battery in there, as well as just in case I need to adjust that battery out somewhat in order to be able to balance the plane fore and aft. So making sure I've got clearance there. Also, as I was looking at this, I noted that there was a screw down here in the bottom. I thought, what's that all about? And I realized that's for a strut. Now that's something that's likely to break at some point in time. There's a little plastic bit that that screws on that sticks through the side of the plane to attach a strut to. And yeah, sometime in this plane's life that's going to break. So I need access to that, so I can't go putting one of these supports for the servos right above that. I've got to have screwdriver access to it. So the first thing I did was I figured I better get that screw in place. But with that, there's a bit of a problem. Here's that strut attachment, which is in place now. But I realized that I'd have to get down in there, and I need to drill a hole in there because the type of screw that goes in there is not a self-tapper. It needs a hole. And my drill, there's no way that I could get a drill in there. And I thought, what on earth am I going to do? Well, then I realized that you can skin a cat more than one way. You can drill in through the bottom. So I very carefully located where it was. I sighted down from the outside how far in to go to drill the hole. Was very careful to drill in straight, both in terms of the angle this way as well as the angle that way. Put them in there, got the holes just in the right place, put the screws in, attach those things in place, and that was a great relief to have that taken care of. So anyway, I decided to put the thing here, and there's a method in my madness there. You notice that's on an angle. Well, as you look at this tube coming down here, they had planned it coming down and then leveling out to go to the servo, and then of course having a throttle one go forward from level. Well, we don't have to have anything go forward. Yeah, nothing going forward. We don't have a nose wheel. We got a tail wheel, and the tail wheel is attached to the rudder. So all we need is the axis going backwards. So why have a extra bend in it if you don't need a bend in it? So I just sort of sighted down and said, well, okay, I want that servo to sit about there, and I sketched in my servo and that place right there. And so I've got pretty well a straight line going to my servo up to where this tube is going to go, and then only a very slight bend. As you look there at the back, only a very slight bend to straighten out to go to the control surfaces at the back. So I decided to put that down there. That is going to have, or does have, plenty of room so that the servos can go on the outside. And originally on the outside, with the original plans, it was to go diagonally with the control rod to be able to have this straighter sort of route. But as I was playing around with it in the back, having these tubes cross in the back was a bit of an issue. And so I thought, well, I got plenty of distance for this thing to have a very gentle curve in it to go off to the side. I could have them in the middle, but my thought is having the servos on the outside, and then what I'm going to do is have the receiver in the middle. And because that's on an angle, what I want to do is have the receiver on this little platform to level it out. And the reason for that is I might have a stabilized receiver in there, and that's got to be established there, situated on a level position. So that little tray here is going to fit right in the middle on that rail in there with a servo on each side of it, and that's taking care of that. Now it was a bit of an issue in terms of locating all of this. I did a lot of to and froing in terms of sketching on the side of the plane and various things, looking at possible routes for going with those tubes. But at the end of the day, I basically just followed what the plan was, with the exception that right here at the very end of it, they wanted this one down here where this little X is. But what I did is I built this support section for the stabilizer in the back, and I put the horizontal stabilizer on there, put the rudder on there. I measured down to where the control horn was going to be, and the control horn is just right where this mark is here, so I've drawn that line to where the control horn is. That, of course, is not glued in yet. Yeah, so the control horn is there, and so I realized that's the line that I want to be on, so I don't want to be coming down to there. especially if I'm going over top of this one, such as what's in the plan. Maybe I could have come underneath that and then come up to that spot and gone up to there. But what I decided was to stay as straight and level as I could on the control horn, because that control horn is going to be vertical, so the optimal position for the control rod is to come in at perpendicular to the control horn to be able to operate it out here. And so coming up above made sense. To get the holes in there, I did the good old routine with the sharpened tube, and there's a bit of the balsa in there. But before, as we talked about doing this, I talked about using a file to create that sharp edge on there. But I actually discovered and learned that it's actually better, or it works nicer anyway, to actually use a hobby knife to do that. And you just keep going around carving off little bits of brass until that feels sharp. And right now you could cut yourself on that. I didn't use that for cutting this hole, being on such an angle that would be hard to hit it. What I did is I started out over here by marking out the top and the bottom edge of the hole is. I worked out from just setting the tube on top and sighting down as to where the complete opening would be, where it would have to be open through both sides. And so I initially cut out that rectangle there. And then I took a file to file down on this edge here and on the inside of the edge up there, and kept doing that until this was nice and free and easy. I know way back in the good old days when I was building balsa models, and those very first ones that I flew, that I had some issues with kinking this too much here, trying to get it through too small of a hole. So I'm very aware now that I don't want any sharp bends in this thing, and so I need to have this free and easy. And so part of this whole thing was to get it out here to where going straight, it's going to be out the distance that it needs to be for the control horn, and that's about the distance out right there, and have it right on line with the control horn and not have any kinks happening right here at the fuselage. So that will get fiberglass or get epoxied in that position right there, and then most likely we'll have a little bit of a support here on the plane farther up. Okay, in a similar way on the other side, it didn't fit exactly where the plan said it ought to be. So in this particular case, let's see, this one was going to be a little bit above. I think this one's actually reasonably close. I'm not seeing my original mark. Originally I put a mark on here where they recommended it, and none of those marks are that. And this one is a little bit above the other one. At any rate, I went through the same process on this one. Worked out where the control horn is going to be and made sure I'm in line with it and that it's pointed straight at it where it's coming out. And I spent quite a bit of time working through that. As you can see, we've got good access for getting the battery in and out. So it just slides in there nicely. We've got a strap around here to strap her down. Of course, we've got a bulkhead up at the top, up at the front. There's, I guess about 4 mils that the battery could come up, but potentially could have a pad either on that panel there or on the battery itself to hold it down. And then, of course, can hold it down here at the back. Have Velcro underneath it as well to keep it from sliding forward and back. 2 servos there, receiver in the middle. So, progressing very well, and we'll give you another update shortly. If you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe, and of course, have a look at the other videos on the channel. I'm RC Jim. You have a great day.